We wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
And that starts with our show and our means of taking care of you, which is by entertaining you. And that involves us telling you all the reasons why you decided to attend. I'm sure you know them well. But now it's time to turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton. I am guestless at the moment, but hopefully that changes here in a minute. But I didn't want to have you all wait too long. So I'm going to pontificate a little bit while I'm here. But welcome to Spotlight on the Multiverse 2025, coming up in October on the 17th through the 19th in Peachtree City, Georgia. We're looking forward to being there and having a really good time and doing all the things that we do at Multiverse. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. And this is one way that we give back to it. And I'm really excited to do that. I was going to take the opportunity while we wait for our guests to arrive. I was going to, take the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing this season on Spotlight on the Multiverse, since I figured I should go live and I have an opportunity here. So we're not only doing this conventional show that we've done for the last 2 years, which is, provide you with highlighting the guests that are attending the Multiverse, and then of course the track directors and the staff that are involved with Multiverse, which is something that we do on this show, essentially just like a talk show, where we'll have a couple guests and then we'll talk about some of the reasons why you should attend a Multiverse, including one that we'll have later today. But we're also going to be doing something a little bit different this year on Spotlight on the Multiverse. And that is, we're going to take the opportunity to put together some mock panels, some panels that maybe, that go along with the guidelines of Multiverse that you maybe one day we'll see at Multiverse, that some of the track directors are trying out, or that we want to kind of put out there as something that we'd love to see happen. So we're going to run a panel, basically how Multiverse runs it. We're going to have a moderator and four or five panelists, and we're going to discuss at certain topics. Our first of these events will happen a week from Friday. So a week from this Friday, we will be hosting our first mock panel of the Multiverse. And that is, I hate to say mock panel because it is a panel, but it is not part of the programming at Multiverse. It's just part of our programming. But we're giving you a sense of what it's like to be around a panel at Multiverse. Hopefully the audience will indulge us and join us for that as well. But our first panel will be happening a week from Friday on October 23rd, or October. Jeez, I got October on the brain already. I want it to be October already. May 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. And our moderator will be Sarah J. Silver. And we're going to be talking about a topic that Sarah pitched to me, which I really loved. And that is inspiration by the screen. So we're going to have a panel talking about what as writers has inspired us from other mediums, like film, anime, TV shows, things of that nature, and what that does for our creativity. We're nailing down the panelists as we're talking, so we'll have the panelists available for that. But every other Friday from this point forward, we will be doing another one of these panels. And so you'll see that, and each track director will get an opportunity to try and shine a little bit about their track and to give you an idea of what the taste of what we do at Multiverse. So I'm really hoping that they all participate and that we get some really nice, diverse tracks in there, some really cool ideas, and that we're able to bring that to you and put that out there. And eventually, if Jesse and Allison and Vanessa so do deem fit that they follow along with the Multiverse programming, maybe we'll even include them over onto the Multiverse YouTube channel if they'd like to do that. We'll see how that goes. That's not my decision. I'm doing this purely to show you guys some of the things that you would experience in Multiverse that I've experienced and I've been lucky enough to be a part of. And I thought this was a really good idea for this season. So hopefully, we'll get those together and you'll be seeing those. Like I said, October. God, I keep doing that. Again, October's on the brain, right? May 20. It's just easy to do when you're looking at October down at the bottom. May 23rd. I don't know why May is escaping me. It's one of those months that always escapes me. Anyway, but May 23rd. We'll begin those. So that's a Friday night. It'll be every other Friday from here on out. So well, actually, I should say it'll be the third Friday in June, because the first Friday is, of course, late night news. So the next Friday would be 3 weeks from now. So essentially, any Friday that's not late night news every other time will then become a Multiverse panel. So a spotlight on the Multiverse panel. So we're real excited to bring that to you. Consider it the Go Indie Now programming, I guess. I don't know. We used to do these panels all the time on Go Indie Now back in the day at the very beginning. I don't know if anybody's out there who's old school remembers that, but we used to do that quite a bit. So we used to have that's kind of how we got started with doing different shows and stuff like that. Because I guess I could go into that if you guys really want to hear the origin story of Go Indie Now, which is almost 10 years old now. But really, Go Indie Now started as a variety show that was just one show. It had a bunch of stuff in it, a bunch of interviews, a bunch of reviews, and it was just one variety show that I put together that was like an hour and a half long. We did about 55 episodes of that show. And then from there, it just blossomed into other shows. We did panel discussions from there. We had a panel discussion once a month on our network, and it was really like This Week in Indies that we do now weekly. And so that's where that origin story came from. So we're going to kind of stay in that vein a little bit and come back to our roots a little bit as well. So if you haven't had the opportunity to check out what we've been doing here lately, on Friday, Sean Hillman, SM Hillman, and I did the late night news, and we talked about Worldcon. So for those of you out there in con land who are looking at cons, that story was our lead story, talking about what was going on with Worldcon and the AI debacle that happened, where they decided to utilize AI in place of the natural selection process of deciding their own panels. And what that meant, and kind of the silliness all involved in that. So if you missed that story, that was a really great story. Hello. And yeah, so that was really great, and that was a really fun show. And then Sean and I talked a little bit about, if you're ever out there, if you're looking to create a game, if you're looking to create a tabletop game, there's a company that's doing kind of like a competition similar to what like Project Greenlight was for film, called GameFound, and they're doing a competition out there. So check that episode out, a late night news that was on Friday. And then Saturday we dropped another saving a seat with Brian Tan and I. It's our indie movie review show. It's our like little Siskel tribute to Siskel and Ebert. We're actually big announcement. I'll do the big announcement here, I guess. We're actually going to be starting to do that show every other week. So that show is going to be bi-weekly from here on out. We basically take two new independent films that have just released out there, give you our thoughts on it, and then Brian and I are doing something neat where each of us chooses a film that the other hasn't seen before to introduce to the other and talk about it. We've done Black Circle Boys. Brian's given me Black Circle Boys. I'm giving him Dead Man, and then we also did a really this really zombie movie that was not that great, Contracted, I think it's called, if I remember correctly. Sorry if I got that wrong. And then this past episode, I gave him Lost in La Mancha, which is a film, documentary film. We did documentary films for this episode, this past episode on Saturday, and Lost in La Mancha was the film that that I gave to Brian to check out, which is the Terry Gilliam pursuit of trying to create Don Quixote and failing miserably at it, and all the things that go wrong on a film set. I was kind of giving him a glimpse of what I've been through in my life and film sets. So there you go. And then Sunday we had This Week in Indies with S.M. Hillman. He had Juliette Rose, Jan Kovic, Ariel Dawn, and Jessica Nettles, and they built an alien. So they talked about what it takes to build an alien, the ins and outs of doing something like that. And so and what kind of aliens interested them and what it meant to build an alien, put it in a story. It was a really fascinating conversation. It took turns I never thought it would. I really enjoyed it. I was there for most of it. Excuse me again. And that was a really, really great conversation. So hopefully you all check all the things that we're doing there. We've got great shows all week long as well, including one that's coming up a little bit later tonight, which is a conversation and cocktail with Vanessa Junta, and she's welcoming Bob Magoo, and that should be a really, really awesome conversation. And I'm sure that and it is Vanessa's birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday to our fearless leader, Vanessa Junta. And I'll tell her that in person when I see her in the next couple hours. So that's all going on. If you haven't checked out Multiverse, the Multiverse website is brand new. It's really well done. They did an immaculate job on it. I think it's a vast improvement over the old site. And it's really cool. It has a timer countdown, so you know exactly when Multiverse is going to take place at what moment, which is kind of cool. I can't wait to see it go down to zero. Actually, I wonder what happens when it goes down to zero. But does it start over? I'm sure that would be interesting to find out. But yeah, there's new payment options, better navigation, con maps and calendars, cool new look. And it is a cool new look. And it's really easy to navigate, really easy to go through. We're coming up on opportunities for other things that are happening. I know that the deadline for presentations for the Learn Track just ended recently. Other deadlines are coming up. So if you are attending Multiverse and you're looking at deadlines, you might want to get over to that site and check it out. Make sure that you get into what you want to do there. So that'll be very, very cool. Lots of great opportunities, great things to come. We of course will be doing this show every Monday, and hopefully we'll have our guests here and be able to talk to them and give you some really great looks at some different types of guests and the kind of inclusion and beautifulness that Multiverse provides when you get to hang out with these people and talk to them and be a part of what they do and how they do it. It's really cool. It's really interesting, and I'm real excited about that. So hopefully we'll have much more guests to give you that opportunity to take a look at it and talk about. All right. So unfortunately our first guest, I don't know what happened. Hopefully we'll figure that out, and down the road maybe have them back and get them going again. But that being said, I really am grateful for this opportunity to be here with you all. I see we've got a really good crowd out there, so sorry, it's just me that you have to endure for the next 10, 15 minutes while our second guest gets around to coming in. And so, well, speak of. So yeah, just a lot of really great stuff here. So that'll be awesome. I just saw our second guest pop in. I'm gonna see if he would like to come on for a little extra time. But anyway, that's what we've got going on, and I'm real excited to do this as always. I think we're going to have our second guest here in a second. So let's do this. Let me jump right forward, and as they get situated, let's see if they agree to jump on. I'm not going to do so unless they ask, want to do that. I think you can hear me, so hopefully. Oh, there you go. You just answered. All right. So let's do this. Here's a reason why to be a part of what we do at Multiverse every year. This is our little reason code action plan for you, and it's one way to get into the multiverse without, without trying to go through the rigmarole of guest pickup and everything like that. It is certainly one way to also take a look at being part of a wonderful, wonderful event and getting some really good insight in said event and possibly events in the future for yourself. And that is by volunteering. And then we will bring on Mr. Kenny Emmanuel. All right, we'll be right back.
Become a volunteer. Volunteering offers a great way to see what goes on behind the scenes of a con, as well as make new friends and support the charitable efforts. On top of that, all volunteers who work at least 12 hours during or prior to Multiverse will receive a full 3-day membership, an exclusive Multiverse volunteer t-shirt, a collectible badge, and access to the volunteer-only party after the con shuts down. Multiverse could not exist without the dedicated help of the wonderful folks who volunteer their time and skills to make it all work. All people, interests, abilities, and skill levels are welcome. Applications are now open, so join us and become part of the team. We need you. Go to multiversecon.org and register to become a member of the Multiverse.
Yes. All right. So yeah, please, volunteers are welcome. We would love to have you. So please check that out. And I'm so happy to have my guest here with me right now, Mr. Kenny Emmanuel. Hello, sir. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you. I always like to start this conversations by allowing my guests to introduce themselves a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do out there.
My name is Kenny Emmanuel. I am a computer engineer by day and a content creator, apparently, at night, either writing books, developing board games, or making video games. So
that's awesome. Yeah. You're primarily science fiction. Would that be fair to say? You dabble mostly in science fiction?
Yes, I have actually started with fantasy, with the idea that I would get some experience at my technical job over the years to then delve into science fiction. But I ended up going into science fiction first, and then I'll pursue the fantasy later.
Nice. So is this what round of this is for you? How many times have you been to Multiverse before?
So this will be my first time at Multiverse.
Awesome.
So I've been following their Instagram page for about 3 or 4 years. I used to go to conventions a lot. I've been to Drawing and Con for like 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still good friends with the now chief editor, I believe, and my cohort, who also writes, has just started writing for the Daily Dragon last year.
Nice.
So I'm still pretty involved in the con life and things like that. But I haven't been going to enjoy the con or go around. I've been going to help my fellow con goers with their booths and whatever they need.
Nice. So this will be the first time you're representing yourself then for a con. That's pretty cool. I love that. uh, what exactly about Multiverse rang to you? Why did you decide to apply to Multiverse?
So the first thing I saw, again, years ago, it was Multiverse. You know, it kind of showed up as an ad or something. And I'm like, yeah, I like writing time travel and I love all that stuff. So I started looking into it and I saw that they had a wide variety of content and programming and things like that. And I'm a pretty eclectic person. So that was the first thing that got me interested in the convention. It was my friend Debbie who said, hey, you should apply as a guest author, you know, at Multiverse. I was like, oh, Debbie, you know, I don't know. I only, you know, I have 3 books. He's like, apply right now. So I went on there and I applied. You know, I started answering the questions and I was like, hey, I guess I know a little more than I thought I did, you know, that. And so I was pleasantly surprised they accepted me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. You know, it's very it's very interesting. Multiverse is one of those that gets talked about in circles, but it's like it's the world's best kept secret, really. You know? But anybody who comes, they'll swear by it. So that's how we get you. We get you to come the first time, and then you never want to leave.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I was excited to see those in Atlanta because DragonCon's in Atlanta, so I've kind of been that way a few times.
You have Andrew saying hello to you. Hello, all. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, it is cool. You know, and you represent a good diversity of things too, because not only do you write books, which we love, but you also do gaming, and gaming is a big part of Multiverse as well. Are you excited about that aspect? Do you look at maybe trying to play some games while you're there, or are you just going to try and do as many panels as possible?
I usually hit the panels. I do go to like the video games every once in a while. If a convention has board games, I like to sit down and play a board game. But I mostly go to the panels to, you know, different topics, listen to see what they have to say, their journey, and then see how I can apply that to my life, right?
There's usually a Mario Kart tournament that happens every year at Multiverse, so I don't know if that interests you.
So I'm part of the old school Nintendo 64 Mario Kart. I haven't played the newer ones.
I think it is the newer one, but somebody out there can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it is the newer one. But I do believe there is precedent to play the. I know there's a 64 running around Multiverse at the weekend, so I don't know what games they're putting on it, but there is one that they have usually connected to a TV or two. So
I would be good to go as long as it's not Rainbow. I think it's Rainbow Road.
Okay.
If there is a track where I can fall off, I will 100% fall off. And Rainbow Road, if you fall off, you are starting all over. So.
That's awesome. I love it. You know, it's really cool. I was just, you know, looking at what you do and how you do it, and you know, the interesting. I really love this idea of your books here, The Dark Side of Light, and you know, it's one of those, you tackling one of those topics that is kind of interesting in our landscape at the moment with AI and what AI can do and possibly could do in the future. What talk a little bit about your collections and what motivated you to write. I mean, obviously you're a programmer, so you probably have some thoughts on AI, I would imagine.
Yeah. To many people's surprise, a lot of my ideas come from just casual conversations like I'm having with you right now. So I can 100% walk away from this meeting with a idea to write a new story. Nice. Right. And it'll just be, you know, crazy stuff. I think when I was with the coworker, they were just like, just imagine if everybody was assigned an IP instead of a internet protocol address, instead of a social security number. I was like, oh, and what if we ran out? Oh, and then from there, that's where I wrote the internet protocol short story there. But a lot of it is just ideas of what if this happened? What if the world went in this path? Obviously, a lot of it comes from my background as an engineer, just working with the technology every day and seeing what it's capable of and what people are doing with it, right? And seeing how it could impact us. And one thing I really try to do is keep the stories somewhat grounded. so that you feel like, oh, this could actually happen.
Mm.
And that's
I
always
love
exciting.
that. So it's almost urban science fiction in a way, like urban fantasy, right? Yeah, it takes place in time. I mean, obviously, it probably takes place in the future, but it just it's grounded in the realism of our world.
Yeah, some of the stories are in space on other planets, so they're all. But I guess all of the characters are human, right?
Oh, okay.
So that kind of grounds it as well. But yeah, far future. Most of them are in the far future.
Look, I'm just, and forgive me, I haven't read it, so I apologize about that. But that is a grievance I will correct. But it looks like, I mean, these covers are amazing. I'll try to pull them up and bring them up here. But it looks like for you there is a matter of kind of representing who you are in these books and the diversity. And is that an important aspect for you, is to kind of tell your side of stories and have that diversity within your worlds?
A little bit. A lot of the characters and their diversity kind of just end up being natural.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always think ahead. Oh, this is going to be this type of person from this type of world. It's just, again, based on our conversation, it'll be like, oh, well, if you're going to do, if you're going to have a spacesuit, then maybe you should be in space, or maybe you can be underwater, and it just kind of develops as it goes along. I haven't pre-planned as much as, you might think there for a lot of these stories and how the characters are developed. And so that's kind of in this series where you get the wide variety of male POVs, female POVs, first person, third person. And in the second book, there's actually a second person POV, which was an interesting challenge.
That's awesome. I love all that. So it's a collection of stories. So are they connected kind of idea, or are they loosely based on one another? How did you determine, how you decided to kind of create these collections?
So they all revolve around the theme of they're all trying to stand in the light, but they cast shadows. And it's basically about each and every story, whether it's the main character or not, is trying to do right, but they're kind of pushed or forced or don't have many options but to do something that's not right, that's wrong, right? And so that's kind of what drives all the stories. As far as like the characters and the worlds, are all completely independent and separate.
That's awesome. I'm trying to pull it up right now so people can take a look. Look at that. That's the latest one, right? That's the newest one.
That's the second one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry about the graininess. I just grabbed one real quickly.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, that's an awesome cover. I love it. This just sounds so fascinating. You're also a game designer. What kind of, you said board games mostly? Is that where you tend to lean toward?
Both. So I've supported a couple of my buddies, local and remote. BA Games is one of them. They do a lot of family games.
Sure, yeah.
Moon Saga Workshop is another one. I just did a unboxing video for their game. But I'm really involved in that type of community where I'll give feedback on the games they make and how they play out. I have a collection of I think I'm at like 450 games right now. And so,
wow.
Yeah, I've played quite a few games. And that's what I meant about going to conventions, right? So I went to Origins and Gen Con to support BA Games. I sat at their booth, and I taught people how to play their game. It was really exciting, great experience to be part of the booth instead of just, always walking through and being a participant, right?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. But also I have a lot of my own ideas, and I kind of dabble in the board game a little bit. But the board game kind of requires you to have like a printer to print components.
Yeah.
And this is gonna sound silly, but I find it easier for me to program a game than to print components for a game, right? So I had an idea and I made all the components and I'm printing them and I'm cutting them and I'm like, I can do this faster programming. So I ended up programming a video game, and I've got a couple that I'm working on. And for whatever reason, for me, that just turned out to be much easier.
That's awesome. Are you a tabletop gamer too? Do you like to do RPGs?
Yeah. I've done a few. I have a couple board games that lean towards tabletop. I'm part of a D&D group. I would probably say the only thing I haven't really delved into is like the Warhammer 40K, big scale type games. But yeah, I have a lot of games. We try to do the campaigns. I have a group of friends, local friends, that we play every Friday night. We try to stream when we can so others can get involved and see what we're doing. But we'll try to do a campaign where there's across 3 or 4 sessions, and a lot of the characters. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go, keep going.
I was gonna say a lot of the characters that end up in my RPGs are going to be someone from one of my stories, so they always have a good laugh at
that. That's awesome. I love that. Mr. Bibbins says hello to you. Hello.
Hello.
I was gonna ask you, is there a certain game that you like playing currently? Was there one that you and your friends have gravitated towards too, or is it just D&D all the way?
Most of the time, I only have one D&D group. We meet every once or 2 or 3 months. But the board game group, we meet regularly. Our favorite game is Vindication, which, as it's described, you are a scumbag that is thrown overboard. Yeah, I know, it's really thematic. They throw you overboard, and you show up on this island, and you're basically using your influence to try to right yourself, to be vindicated, right? And it's really just like an open world. You get to go to these different locations, and you spread your influence to try to get points and things like that. But what we love about it is that it's open world, and you can kind of go and do whatever you want, and the rules don't restrict you to just doing 1 or 2 things. So it's kind of like a D&D session where the DM lets you do whatever you want almost. But there's consequences here and there. But it's just
cards you have to pull and stuff you have to do, right?
Yeah, because a lot of they call them companions that you go around and talk to, right? They're randomly drawn cards, and you can choose, I'd like this companion to follow me. And then you go on adventures, then you fight monsters, then you might lose that companion. And it's just a great, beautiful game. Really great.
That's awesome. Are you looking at possibly selling some books while you're at Multiverse? Are you going to try and get a table and sell while you're there? Or are you just going to there for the experience for the first time?
I'm going to try to sell. I'm going to try to get a table and sell books. I've only started selling books at conventions probably like last year, the year before last year. So I haven't been doing it a lot. But I've realized that is a great place to talk to people. And so people will stop by, and we don't even always necessarily talk about the book that I'm selling. We just have conversations about, the convention itself, books they like, music they like. One person was walking around with a Coheed and Cambria shirt. I was like, hey, I know them. I actually wrote this book, listening to their music. And, we made that connection, So, I'm definitely going to be on some of the panels, and I will walk around a little bit. But that steady stream of people coming by is easier to talk to than people that in passing, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I was curious, did you sell any books while you were at Gen Con?
Gen Con, I only brought 1 or 2 in the display because Gen Con is primarily a board game convention.
Right, yeah.
So I always keep that in mind, what type of convention or event is this? Because people are coming there looking for a specific thing, right? Yeah. So
I was just curious, because you get to talking to people, and you never know, what scenario you get into, and they go, "Oh, you're an author," and you go, "Yeah, here's my book," kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and that's what I did. So I brought a couple as a display copy, right? And as I'm teaching the game, we end up talking, and they're like, "Hey, is that you? Is that you on your cover of the book there?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my book." They did have an author alley. I walked down there a little bit. I met a couple authors. We exchanged information. So I made some new friends out of it.
I'm really curious about the Gen Con experience. I mean, I've been to Dragon as you. I'm becoming a regular attendee and things of that nature. And I do a lot more author-based cons. We have not done Gen Con yet. We just got. My network here just started to get into gaming just this past year and a half. So, but we've been talking about, covering Gen Con and going to Gen Con and experiencing it. And I'm curious from your perspective what it was like being there and being a part of it.
So Gen Con is shoulder to shoulder walking. It was what?
Similar to Dragon Con then.
Yeah. It was very similar. Fortunately, I think, Dragon Con has all the multi-levels. Gen Con doesn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a convention area, so it's large open space. So you're on the same ground floor for the most part.
Yeah.
So that makes, you know, walking a lot easier. What was it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but probably about Friday evening, I'd already lost my voice to an extent. Again, I was helping my friend by teaching the game, and it was just, there was like a line of people, and they were just constantly coming through. There would be the periods where there, you know, the traffic would die down a little bit, and I think that was because of either some major event or everybody was at lunch.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it was shoulder to shoulder the entire time outside of that you know, time frame. When you get there in the morning, right, as a vendor, we get to get there a little early. You can see all the people standing in the line, like waiting for that gate to open.
Sure.
Right. And it's just a flood of people just start coming through. So it's a well-attended conference. I know a lot of there's like a schedule, like a calendar where you can put your game on there. A lot of those spots that sold out like months in advance.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put out a game, or if you're going to, you know, be at a table and kind of show your game off, you know, put that out on their calendar, and a lot of people will join it.
That's awesome. And there's also designated places you can go and actually play games for a while and things of that nature as well. So
yeah,
I know that they have that aspect of it too. But yeah, it looks massive, and it looks very interesting. And I think if you're into the games, there's probably no better place to go.
Yeah, they had all kinds of board games, and since I'm a big part of the community, I recognize a lot of them. I saw a lot of the vendors. I knew what was coming out. I walked around a little bit, but you know, for the most part, I was like, oh, I've already have this, or I pre-ordered it. You know, so I really spent a lot more hours at the booth helping those guys out.
Well, you sound like that you're right in my wheelhouse and doing a lot with independent publishers and things of that nature. What have you been encouraged by seeing, like, independents out there doing it with games and stuff? Have you been encouraged by that? Has it kind of become a pretty good niche for a lot of people out there? I mean, it's a grind. It is a tough grind. It's not always profitable, but I do feel like games are coming along in the independent circle quite a bit.
Yeah, what was interesting was to see the entire process, right? Like you said, it's not always profitable because there is a major industry kind of like hidden back there.
Yeah.
Because again, you can design the game, but then you've got to get somebody to either publish it or to make all the components. You've got to go to all these conventions to kind of show other people and get a following.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that I work with, they end up doing some type of crowdfunding, right? So they're trying to, you know, get emails, show people how the game works, so that when they put up the crowdfunding, it can be funded and they can produce it. But then once it gets produced, right, you've got to go through all the balancing. You've got to get all the artwork done. You've got to do the rule book, do all the checks. They'll send me the rule book, and I'll usually ask them, all right, do you want level 1, 2, or 3 editing? You know, I'll go with my track changes, and I will go through everything, you know, with the fine-tooth comb. Again, because I read a lot of rule books and I see a lot of the pitfalls in them. So I try to give them advice on that. And then after they've done all that, then there's this whole cycle of production, right? Where you kind of have to sit back and wait for the games to be physically produced, then shipped over the water, and then shipped over the water to distribution centers, and then shipped out to people in their homes, right? So there's a massive process back there, and supporting, you know, the local independent, you know, game developer. I was able to see all of that and understand what all it takes to bring a product to life like that. Whereas on my end, you know, I wrote it, I put it out as PDF, and then I uploaded it, right? It's a little different as far as the process. Yeah.
Just put it on drive through and hope for the best.
Yeah. So it's a different process for sure. But anytime I'm with those guys, you know, we're always throwing out ideas, and so I get motivated. I want to make my own, and you know, I've shown them a couple of my games. There's been a lot of interest in that. You know, just like you said, I'm doing the board game, the video game, writing books. So I kind of sometimes have to take a step back and say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on for the time being.
Do you have a favorite amongst those? Or is it just like your children? Whatever you're working on now is what you love?
I actually bounce around them until one comes to the fore. So like I'll be writing, and then I'll get up from the computer, then I'll go sit down and work on the board game. Then I may go back to the computer and then work on the video game. And then once one of them like crosses a certain imaginary line, then I just take it all the way and finish it. It helps a lot with writer's block or creator's block, right? So if I get stuck, no big deal. I can jump to another project. It'll be fresh, and I'll continue working on something.
There's a subtle art to juggling like that too, right? There's a lot of there seems to be, I mean, that's a good programmer's mentality, right? Just keep on keeping on kind of idea a little bit,
Yeah.
Even if you get stuck.
Sometimes it's good to just walk away for a little bit. And so if I'm stuck on something, I can't figure out how this character is going to get to the next part. If I just walk away and start on something else, boom, right away, I know exactly how to get that character there. It's because sometimes you're so into it that you're not breathing or taking the time to really think. But once you step away and you clear your mind, it's a lot easier.
We have a question here in the chat. Kids Are Asleep is asking, are you seeing any changes in where readers and gamers are buying your books? Less Amazon, more Kobo or itch.io or similar? Or is it mostly in-person sales?
I mostly get in-person sales because social media is such a challenge, right? You kind of don't have a lot of control. So, I'll make posts here and there. Some people will see it, some people won't. So my best sales tend to be in person, especially when people can see your face and they can have a conversation with you and they get an idea of what type of person you are. And we've had this conversation, or I've had this conversation with my other, author friends, local author friends, and it turns out to be about the same. When we go to these conventions, we do a lot better than online. Now, online, you have a better chance of, going viral, right? Yeah. So if you go viral, then you'll get all those sales and all those people putting eyes on your book and your content. But again, I'm one in like billions of people, right?
Yeah, it's a numbers game. So, it's constantly churning the algorithms to your favor, and then once you have that, you have to be patient because sales come trickling in through that, and then they just kind of snowball from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I'm curious, is there a similar muscle that you're using while programming versus creating? Do you feel like would that be surprising to some people that maybe your programming background has helped you as a creative?
It's more like the opposite.
Okay.
So I've been writing since like grade school. Back in the days, and hopefully I don't date myself here, but when they had that sheet of paper, and I can't remember what the lines are called, where it has a solid line and then dash line and then the solid line.
Sure, yeah.
And you'd get that assignment, write a story. I'd always write front and back.
The pseudo brown gray paper.
Yeah. So I've been writing for a long time, and I kind of got the idea. It was like, okay, how else can I bring these characters to life? Video games is one of them. So I kind of started going down the engineering path, and the fastest way for me to learn was to create something I enjoyed. And so by programming a game with my characters and settings and worlds that I enjoyed, I learned a lot faster and pushed through burdens that others might walls others might get stuck behind. If you're following a tutorial and you're not really interested in like the content or the thing they're creating, right? You're less likely to be attentive, you're slower to grasp it. But when it's something you love, you're just fast at it. And my other gamer buddy, he was like, Kenny, you got to stop creating special abilities. I was like, yeah, but this ability is so cool. Look, this character jumps and flies over there. He's like, yeah, I get it. Finish the game. Write the other parts of it. I was like, all right, yeah. I'll get to that. Yeah.
So you're a supplements guy. You like to have all the supplements out before you have like the core going a little bit.
Yeah, but I also understand that the core is required for the supplements to work, right?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, there's no mechanics without the core, right? So
right. Yeah.
Which is kind of funny for a programmer to go that direction, because I would, just when you tell me you're a computer programmer by day, I'm thinking, well, he's probably core is probably the easiest thing for him to master at that point, because one code leads to another code, and if you mess up the code, there's no code that leads back to that, right? So you have to find the mistake and you have to fix that.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I'm actually a computer engineer versus a programmer. It's just programming happens to be a part of computer engineering, right? So programmers are very, very efficient, right, with their code, and they know all the bounds of the application and all that stuff. I know quite a bit of it since I've been programming over the years. But as a computer engineer, my job is really to solve real world problems using applications and hardware and things like that.
So you don't create the code, you use the special abilities the code gives you.
No, I do both. So I'll build the hardware and then I'll program it to do something. But I'm not a software engineer where it's just straight applications.
Right.
But, yeah.
Sorry for the ignorance there. I apologize.
No, the engineering is a very broad topic. We can go down into multi-levels of what I actually do, right?
So are you do you have any big fandoms that you like? Is there something out there that you would be looking forward to talking about at Multiverse?
Board games is a big one.
Yeah.
Video games have become very interesting because, I haven't played a lot of AAA games lately. A lot of them, they've been indie games. And I feel like there's a lot more to indie games than there are nowadays, in my opinion, to like the AAA games. So it'd be really nice to meet some of the indie game developers and, see what they're doing, where they're going with how it's going, seeing what challenges they run into. Obviously, I want to go see, some of the authors out there, go to a couple of the writing panels and, get some ideas. How do I, put my story out there more? How do I, make something more unique than what I already have, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to, meeting people, interfacing.
Do you have some things you have some fires stoking right now that you're kind of hoping to get out there a little bit too? Are you working on some stuff that you kind of got on the back burner that you're hoping to get out?
Yeah. So you mentioned, The Dark Side of Light, Volume 1 and 2. The actual first book I published was The Path of Time, which is a time travel story. So I had it in my mind that initially it started as a novella. Well, let me take it one step back. I wrote a fantasy piece and it was really, really, really long, right? And as a part of my writers group, they were like, Kenny, you should try to write something short so you can go through the entire process of editing and, all that stuff. So I was like, okay. So I started writing The Path of Time and I wrote it chapter by chapter and they really seemed to enjoy it. So I just kept writing it and kept writing it. And then I finished it as a novella and they were like, well, that's it? No, you got to keep going. They encouraged me, great group of people keep encouraging me, right? So then I doubled the size of it to be a novel, right? And then that was the first book I published. Well, when I put it out, a lot of people were like, I really like this. This is time travel at its heart. We really enjoy it. Where's the next piece? And I was like, well, I didn't really plan to write, the next piece. So then I finally got motivated to write the second part of it, or the second book. Well, The Path of Time is like a 5x8 paperback. And I did The Dark Side of Light as 5.5 by 8.5, and I gave it a hardcover. So then I thought, and a lot of people like the hardcover, the feel of that size.
Sure, yeah.
So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do for Path of Time then. I'm going to write the second part, but I'm not going to release it quite independently. I'll put it like a limited run on it. But I'm going to add to the first part and put both books together and make it one larger book for The Path of Time. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Oh, awesome. That's cool. That's amazing. So for those who've read The Path of Time, they're going to get a little extra treat. And for those who haven't, they're going to discover a whole new world. Yeah,
it is a continuation of the story. And instead of two separate small books, I'm bringing it up to the size and quality of, the Dark Side of Light series.
Nice. I mean, you said you've been writing a long time. What finally got you to publishing? What did it for you? Was it seeing others that you knew publishing? Did you look at it? Did you try to go traditional route? What was it for you that you decided to finally put your work out there?
It was 100% my writing group. So I am part of the North Alabama Science Fiction and Cake Appreciation Society. Yes,
Nice.
it's very interesting, right? We would go to, people, members of the group would host. We would go to their house. We'd eat cake, brownies, all that kind of stuff, and we would read excerpts to each other. And that was the group that challenged me, to go further and further and further. So once I had the book written, they were like, "Okay, now you're ready to publish." And some of them had published already, so they gave me, feedback on that side. I decided to go the self-publishing route because I'd submitted short stories in the past to different, places, but a lot of those places were looking for very specific genres or paths and things like that. And my stories, as you'll see in the collection, were way out there, a little different, right? So I took all those stories, I wrote some new ones, and then I put them all together. But it was definitely the writers group supported me, 100% of the way. I learned a lot from them. I could just sit there and they would just fill my mind with stuff. So now I'm kind of doing the same for them, because I learned that a couple of them, although they told me I should publish, they haven't yet published. So I'm like, you've got a great story. Let's get it published. Now that I've gone through it, I can tell you, where to go to find an artist for your cover, best practices for your manuscript, as far as, all the formatting and things like that. So I feel like I have a lot of experience and knowledge now that I can share with my writers group. And I'm hoping I'll be on a panel at Multiverse where I can share it with even more people.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. The gentleman who is sponsoring the gaming panel is actually going to be on our show here and right after this one. So you might want to check that out. His name's Bob Magoo. He's sponsoring the writing track this year. So
okay,
awesome. He's also from Alabama as well. So
really?
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he writes urban fantasy, but he's done a lot of one-page games. He's a one-page game designer, so he does a lot of those.
Man, I had trouble writing, from short stories. So I can only imagine in games, because they're kind of like, you can compare them, right? Novel versus full-length game to short story and one-page games. And so, yeah, it's a challenge to write everything. I did try to do one. I think I came up with a pretty good game, but I never submitted it. But I tried. I tried my hand at doing a one-page game. A couple of people enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. It was restricted by color, though. You had to use colored pencils or colors or something like that. But it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, I'll definitely watch the next show and hope to meet them at Multiverse later this year.
Have you test run your games? Have you had the opportunity to do that and have people play it before?
The video or board games?
Both, either ones, yeah.
Both. Yeah, the board games, I made prototypes. There's a local group here where I've taken it to, we've met at different card shops. I've showed them the game. They've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it, playing with them. I wrote down all my mistakes or, things that I need to fix, and then I go back home and fix them. Video games, similarly, I have an online group. I'll post a link to the latest revision. They'll go and play it and give feedback. I know a couple folks, their number one goal is to break the game, which I really appreciate, because I'm like, either you break it or somebody else does.
Right.
Yeah. So I post my games on itch.io.
Okay.
So there's a couple up there. And then the board games, I haven't put anything quite out yet. Hopefully I'll do that in the next couple of years.
You should bring along the Multiverse. Maybe we'll test run it in person.
The board games, yeah. That would be a goal. And I think that's kind of what I do as well, is if there's an opportunity somewhere, that'll become the goal to get something done. Right. So right now for Multiverse, I want to finish the Path of Time sequel.
Nice.
I'm also working on an audio book.
Oh, cool.
For it. Yeah, I lucked out at one of the conventions. Again, going to the conventions is where you meet people.
Nice.
Huntsville Comic Convention, I ran into someone named Bob Carter. And we just got to talking and we hit it off. He loved, the Dark Side of Life series. And I went to look him up and I was like, he's a voice actor for like all these anime shows and all these other movies and stuff. Yeah. And he was like, hey, I want to do your audiobook. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So hoping to have that done. And then, I'll put on my calendar to bring one of those board games.
Awesome. Well, it's been a delight talking to you. Awesome to meet you. I look forward to meeting you in person. Maybe we'll run into each other at Dragon, or we'll see each other in October for sure. But Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for coming on a little bit earlier and talking a little bit more. I appreciate that. And tell everybody where they can find, these wonderful books of yours and the video games and everything out there that they can find, where they can find everything about you.
So the best place to go is www.kennyemmanuel.com. Right at the top there, I've got my Facebook, my Instagram, all of those. If you go to the author section, you'll see links to the board game streaming that I do, board game community that I'm part of. You just go down the list, you'll see my books there, video games I've made. That's the best one source, one stop for all of that.
Awesome.
And Joe, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate being on the show, and I had a really good time.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, that's our show. Thank you so much for joining us, and come back in about an hour. We have a conversation and a cocktail coming up with the programming director of Multiverse, Vanessa Juta. She hosts this show, and she's going to have, like I mentioned before, Bob Magoo on. It's going to be an awesome show. So you come and check that out. And meanwhile, it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.